want to talk about a framework for selecting the appropriate double stroke roll. I'm talking about double stroke open rolls for a given piece of music. This was a framework that was given to me by one of my early teachers, Al Miller, many years ago, and it served me well over the years. So that for any given tempo, you have to figure out what kind of roll would be appropriate to fill up the appropriate amount of space. In other words, you want to play a roll that's fast enough so that you have a nice continuous roll. But you have to give a little bit of thought to what would work for any given situation. So let's just talk about that. And what I'm going to talk about it in terms of tempo. I'm going to start out with let's say maybe 60 beats a minute, for example. Okay. So there's 60 beats a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what am I going to play at that tempo to give me a roll that's going to be continuous, that's going to sound continuous? So for example, if I chose 16th notes, 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and double that, that's not going to work, right? It's not going to be, the roll isn't going to be fast enough. So what I would try then is, how about if I bump that up to 32nd notes at that tempo? So it'd be 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and double that. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1. Now that's going to be closer to fitting that tempo, right? So what I'm doing is I'm playing 32nd notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and I'm doubling each one of those subdivisions. Okay, so that would be the first example. So there it is at a very slow tempo. I need to have the maximum number of strokes to fill it in. Let's take it up to, say, maybe 65 or let's just say 70 beats a minute, for example. Okay? If I go to 70 beats a minute, and if I still tried to think in terms of 32nd notes, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and it's going to be pushing just a little bit, okay? So rather than go that route, what if I think in terms of 16th note triplets? So 16th note triplets at 70 beats a minute would be 1 and 1 and 2 and 3 and double that. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Okay, so you can start to see, I can start to have some choices. I can make some choices that will serve me well to give me the most continuous roll for the least amount of effort. So I can probably take that up to, that's 75, that's, let's say 80, 90 beats a minute. So here's 85 beats a minute with the same idea. So the triplet, one and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Now, let's go on up a little further. Let's say that I took it up to 95 beats a minute. That's going to be a little too fast for the 16-note triplets. It would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... So that's going to be a little harder to go. So what I can do now is reduce the number of strokes, convert that to 16th notes, and see how that would fit. It would be 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1, 2, 3... So it's getting closer to fitting. Still a little bit slow, but it's better than trying to rush the 16th notes into that. So let's try it at 100 beats a minute. Here's 16ths. Okay, and that would probably work, up to 120, 25 beats a minute. Here it is at 120 beats a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 1 and 2 and 3, 1 and 2 and 3. So you can see that would work pretty well. All right, let's go a little further now. Let's say that we jumped up to 130 beats a minute. The 16th notes are going to be pushing it. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1. It's getting close. But if I jump that to maybe 135, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3, that doesn't feel as comfortable to me. So I have to consider what would work there. So let's try a 16th note triplet 1. So it'd be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So in other words, what I'm doing now, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and triplet, 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 1. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. What I would do though, I wouldn't double each stroke. I would just go from singles to doubles. So instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it'll be 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. At this tempo. And what you notice there, the sticking, the hands change on the beat. So it, right lead, left lead, right lead, left lead. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and now we'll go up and take it up to, I don't know, maybe 200 beats a minute, and that's obviously going to be too fast for the 16th note triplets for what I was doing. So let's see what I could do at this tempo. Let's try eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. So because the tempo's 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. It's getting better, okay? Take it up a little bit higher. We'll go to 200. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Go further. Take it maybe to 220 and try the same thing. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, so you see how that works. So basically what I did, I went from 50 beats a minute to, 220. I could go probably take that. Let's talk about cut time. The same principle can apply here. We have the same issue. Now we're dealing with 2 beats per minute. So let's say that we're at the very low end of the scale. We're down, 50, 55 beats a minute, somewhere in that neighborhood. I'll just pick 55, right? So there it is. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. So what am I going to do to fill up that space? Well, let's try 16th notes. It'll be 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and double add. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. So you can start to see how that would work. Okay, that would fit pretty nicely. Let's jump it up to, we'll say 75, 80, we'll go to 80 beats a minute. 1 and, so again, back to hearing the eighth note. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. 16th notes aren't going to make it. They're going to be a little too fast. So instead of doing that, I drop down to eighth note triplets. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and double each one, each subdivision. 1 and 2 and 1. So go back to this. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. 1 and 2, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1. Okay? So that, you can see how that fit. Now let's jump it up. We go up to another plateau. Let's say, we're at maybe 100 beats a minute. Eighth note triplets are going to be a little too fast for that. So now what I would do, go to eighth notes. 1E and a 2E and a 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 1E and a 2E and. Okay? Take that up a little faster. So I'm getting in quite closer to the right range. Here's 115. One E and a 2E and a 1E and a 2E and a. And in the last example, I'll jump it to say 140, and let's talk about what might be appropriate there to give me the most continuous roll. Eighth notes, be a little fast. 1E and a 2E and a 1E and a 2E and a 1E and a 2E and a 1. It's not going to feel comfortable. So let's go to eighth note triplets. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1. But trying to double every subdivision isn't going to feel good, so I go back to the idea of just playing double strokes for each of those subdivisions. 1, 2, 1. So it'd be 1 and 2 and 3 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. notice there is it's a right on the 1 and a left on the 2. 1 and 2 and 1 and so 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Here it is at 140. 1 and 2 and 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 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Now, a great way to practice this, and you need a lot of practice doing this, so that eventually what happens is that you just instinctively can feel this. You can hear a rhythm or a tempo rather, and in your mind you can determine, you know, what's the appropriate subdivision of the roll that I need to apply to give me a nice continuous roll. The book that I worked out of for a number of years to help to reinforce this concept was a book by Simon Sternberg called Modern Drum Studies. And within the book, it's got a lot of exercises with various subdivisions of rolls that you can apply this to. And you can read this in both cut time and in 4/4 time. So give that a try. You can go to the bottom of this video. I've got a link to the chart that I was just talking through and working through these subdivisions. I've got the tempo on one side. I've got basically the subdivisions of the roll going down the page. And you can try this for yourself. And then get a book like Modern Drum Studies and actually try to apply these then to the book at whatever specified tempo you decide to try to play it at, and see how this works out. And I think if you do this long enough, you'll find out that this framework then becomes, you know, just sort of part of the way you think, and it'll make the execution of your rolls appropriate for the particular tempo of the music you're trying to play. Okay, I hope that was useful. Thanks.